Hello again and welcome to the newspaper review segment of the Breakfast Show, Friday, 23rd of November 2007. I have with me Honorable Haruna Iddrisu and Mr. Stephen Amwa. Of course, I haven't forgotten your name. You know.
Thank you.
Good, welcome.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful morning, and I think it's just right that we start with NPP. Nominations were closed yesterday. Daily Graphic front page, it has pictures of the 18 official aspirant of the party, and Kodia absent, the paper says. All of them here. Haruna, one will say that is it the platform has been set now?
Absolutely, but contingent on the vetting committee submitting its report to the national headquarters of the party, and as you review this alongside other worrying headlines, will NPP break away after primary?
I'll look at that after this.
Yes,
so
I think that the new patriotic party is currently privileged to be the ruling government. I have very difficult worries as to the numbers. As many as 19 or 18 contestants, in my view, is not honorable and dignifying enough. But I respect the right of every individual to aspire to the highest office of the land. But ideally...
So aren't you contradicting yourself if you say that you don't find that, but you still respect?
I respect it. You see, I've said it repeatedly. Even if you wanted to constitute a football team, 11 will be reasonable as players. And for purpose of the highest office of our land, you see, individuals must do an inner search and an inner assessment of themselves. And in this respect, several other evaluations can be done. You must look at whether or not I am capable of winning or not. You must look at whether or not your public standing. You must look at your standing even within the new patriotic party. And you must look at your own appreciation of our national issues and problems and the extent to which you can fit yourself to resolving it. I'm sure if they did that, some of them quietly will speak to themselves
and I'm sure you've heard them, and all of them claim to think that they know what they're about.
But I think that I share the view, and I have publicly also stated it, like Mr. Apia Menka rightly stated yesterday. Of all the 18, I would give weight to some 5 of them as persons who are recognized. Now, even if you consider them, I wish that we had time. On merit, in terms of the political debate, I'm very impressed with the comments of Atta Kennedy. Unfortunately, he has no standing at all, even
well,
in the
I've heard you make that comment on this particular program several times. So let me come to Stephen, and then we'll continue with, is it break or make after the primaries? But 18, Haruna thinks that that's not honorable. And I'm sure he's not the only person. A lot of people have said it. Too many.
The way a lot of people are sort of issuing statements here and there, complaining about the number. It looks like they are not aware that it's one of the succession management techniques. This party, Liberal Democrats, did that, and they chose Charles Kennedy. We have, I think, about 4 or 5 techniques for choosing a successor within the political terrain, and one of them is the talent pool method, where a talented number of people who believe in their individual expertise think they can lead a nation, and one is choosing. So it's not anything that is new under the sun. It is done elsewhere. It's done in the developed countries, as well as other places.
With regards to Ghana, it's new.
Even in the world,
no, but it's same the political. Can you let me finish, please? What I'm trying to say is that we should rather look at the benefits and the losses that we can incur if it is well managed or not well managed. If it is well managed, let me give you this practical analysis. We have about 80, say we have 20 of them.
Right.
Each of them's campaign team is made up of, say, 20. It means if we, after December, we are united, we are going to have about 400 experts in terms of touring Ghana, campaigning on around, having the experience, the requisite expertise to ensure that we battle with other opposition. So it is about how we manage it. It's not the number. To me, if we manage it well, it will rather help us derive a lot of synergies and have competitive edge over others. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In any case, are people trying to tell MPP that we should forget about internal democracy and tell others that, no, you go away, we need only 2. When they qualify, when these people are part of the party, they meet all the requirements. So I don't even understand. If we are then making comparison, I'm not trying to underplay CPP or any party, I'm sorry. You look at the number of MPs at the parliament, and then you look at the votes they normally get. I think they are coming out with about 6 aspirants. Do you understand what I'm saying? About 4 million people and over voted for MPP. It's a party made up of a lot of intellectuals and then people who have the capability to rule and lead this nation.
But with regards to management and, you know, pulling, is it talents together and all that, do you think you can manage it? The NPP can manage
that? That is probably...
With all that is happening now, text messages, accusations here and there, can you manage it?
Let me tell you, if it comes to the text messages, we don't have to necessarily think it is from within. It's possible it's from within. It could be from outside. Other parties, other groups, other individuals are smart. So sometimes we should be very careful. I mean, who sent it, whether even it is true that it is from within the MPP or from the aspirants. So we don't have to look at from one angle and say that, oh, it's within the MPP. In spite of all these things, I think the bottom line is, how do we manage this number? If we do it well, it's rather a big advantage. Else, then it goes the other way around. So people should rather consider how we can manage it well to our advantage, rather than saying the number is too large. Are they trying to say that we should tell 1 or 2, no, you don't qualify, go away, we need only 1 person? I don't think that would be democratic.
Well, that's good advice, but I think it should go to your party. But do you foresee a situation where, with the report, when the report, the vetting committee's report is finally out, where some people will be disqualified?
Actually, it's possible, anything is possible. But I am not expecting that, because you know the way Ghanaians most of the time read meanings into issues. People believe in deceiving and misinforming other people, politicizing every bit of what is happening, especially in NPP today.
But what if,
so
on principle, on principle, there are certain people in there who are not qualified to be out
there
there?
Is credible and tangible evidence where the public cannot come out and say, no, this person was disqualified because of this kind of thing. Yeah. But if everybody goes through well and there is no evidence that one has to be disqualified, fine. But if there is that material evidence, I mean, internal policy, whatever, the person does not meet, the person does not qualify, then why not? I think at the end of the day, internal democracy in MPP, everybody testified to the fact that we adhere to democracy. We are the party that we're not going to do anything to malign other person's chance of winning.
Haruna, do you foresee a situation where somebody will be disqualified?
I have trust in the vetting committee chaired by Professor Ajay Bekwe.
Though you have a problem with him chairing it?
Yeah, absolutely, because of his Council of State chairman playing a typical open partisan role, in my view, is worrying for our country. Okay. People who ought to advise the president must be independent people. Okay,
okay. I waded into that. Let's come back to the issue of whether somebody will be disqualified. Right.
We can only wait for the report, but I doubt if that will serve the MPP any purpose if they chose to do that. That would deepen some cracks and discontent within the highest level of the party, and it could be very worrying for them when it comes to the general elections of 2008. I strongly believe that some of the candidates merit and can provide effective leadership at the level of the country. It's regrettable that Alan Cash is being drowned with the perceived real or imagined support of the president. But as a person standing alone, I'm sure he could make it on his own strength. Nanado, good old Nanado, you know what sacrifice he has made for the New Patriotic Party, right from opposition through government. And I think that Osafo Mafo would have made an effective president given the opportunity, but I don't see him emerge. In the last few minutes and hours, Alhaji Aliu Mahama, in my view, his managers are not handling him well, and some of the comments emanating from them need to be checked. I believe that he is seeking to lead the country, and he does have the experience to do so. But this is purely an MPP matter. We are watching closely what is going to happen.
After making your assessment and predicting whatever, it's now MPP matter. But we'll move on. Well, make or break, will MPP still be standing after Congress?
Sure.
You sure about that?
I think
we've already have hints of people breaking away. The youth from, is it the Ashanti region or something?
Oh no, they really don't have that credibility. It's not as the picture is being portrayed outside. It's quite different. I believe in the principles.
Haruna just looked at you because he knows where he's coming from.
Who?
No, I don't think there's going to be anything. But let's move on to other issues. Sure. Well, we only hope and pray that you stay together no matter what happens. But the Statesman, back being goofed, attempt to embarrass Vicky Bright backfires, says the statement. Then we have this Daily Searchlight. Bright Vicky weeps in court, comes down from high horse to apologize profusely to vetting committee. And then I think the Daily Guide also has a story on Vicky Bright vetted again, second time. I don't think she's the first person to go through a second, vetting procedure in Parliament, right? But yesterday we saw another angle to it. It doesn't look like it's going to be easy for her.
Yeah,
are you part of the committee anyway?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. I will wait for my turn when the report of the committee is submitted to Parliament, and then we could make our comments on it.
All right.
I think that the appointment committee is a very important committee, to the extent that we all agree that Article 78 imposes a dual responsibility on both the executive and Parliament, because when the President nominates, the person must have prior approval of Parliament. And indeed, we have had even a ruling of the Supreme Court on this same subject. Whether or not candidates appearing before the Appointments Committee take the committee seriously depends upon how the committee manages itself, even beyond its report. I watched Vicky Bright at her first appearance, and it's my strong contention that she was extraordinarily arrogant unnecessarily. She didn't need
but to. I think yesterday we saw a different Vicky Bright.
Absolutely. You see, she was humbled. So you can then see a redefinition of her personality. That's quite interesting. I'm not too familiar with British naturalization laws and the transition from one citizenship to the other. What I do know is that at any point in time, any person can choose to renounce her citizenship. But provisions in our own constitution, remember when we amended the Citizenship Act, dual citizens are not allowed to hold certain key public office, for which she may be cited for that. But given that she's able to give convincing evidence that, look, I am now a Ghanaian citizen, I had questions about whether she's a registered voter or not. There's a precedent in Ghana, the Ekospio case, will guide Parliament in what decision we take. I hear even regarding dual citizenship, we've had a precedent before. I will do my own cross-check today. If it happened before, why would anybody stand her way, especially after she had rendered an apology for the kind of attitude she showed the first time? Right. But I believe that the president, in nominating persons, must do a thorough check-up himself, not for Parliament to. Parliament can always do a follow-up. Some of these things are unnecessarily embarrassing politically. I think that if you wanted to give me a job, you may be able to know my background. This has been the process of the development of that person. And then we should have known. I hear, and it may come up, of some other person who is supposed to be having the same dual citizenship or using a foreign passport, who passed or was passed by Parliament. I think we need to look at this issue. But for me, the bottom line is the suitability of the candidate. What does she bring to the ministry that the president intends that they would bring? My own personal argument have been that Ghana can run. I'm sorry to have this excessive number of ministers of state. It's unprincipled. The MPP in Agenda for Positive Change said that they will downsize government. They have increased the size of government, and it means a lot for the national purse in terms of their facilities and privileges. They told us when they went in there that they didn't know. The president apologized, but that is no excuse. Gifty, this country can run with a maximum of 60-65 ministers. I just think that it's wasteful, and I will say so even if the NDC was in government. We must begin to reduce this size of government. Some of the ministries can run as very efficient
well, I can confidently say that when you were a student leader, you made that comment about the NDC anyway. So I don't know whether now that you're NDC, you would have still made that comment, but at least you've made it before. But I mean, to you, Steve, one would say that how many months more to go for this government to end its term? Why do you need more ministers? Why does, for example, Vicky Bright has to go through the second procedure and, quote unquote, be, you know, subjected to this kind of questioning and embarrassment?
I think we have more than 1 year, and to me, that is not a short period.
But don't you have enough ministers in there to run the country?
I think President Kufuor is somebody who...
I'm sorry, I know that you should do it, but you are a party member. But
yeah,
these are questions that are being asked. And
but I wanted to react to a few things my brother said before going
That's fine.
He said that first sitting with the vetting committee, she was unnecessarily arrogant. It could be true. It could be false. I don't know the concept from which he's talking about. But right. Gifty, let's look at this issue. Yeah.
Let me quote what the statement says. It says, Ms. Bright, who was described by the minority leader, Alban Bagbin, as very rude and combative during her first appearance, was yesterday very sober and giggly to the point that she allowed the minority leader to run circles around her, even though his point was of no legal grounding.
Gifty, if you can bear me a witness, most of the times at the parliament, there are a section of the parliamentarians in times like this when such exercises are being conducted. They try to push those that are interviewing or vetting to the wall. They intentionally push them to the wall so that they can sort of conduct themselves in an antisocial manner. For them to come back and criticize and say, you know, they are rude, they are arrogant, they are this, they think they are higher than other people. In fact, some parliamentarians went to the extent of even liking a high-profile minister to Muguyaro, and they were laughing. So it takes two to tango. Sometimes, if I think they can be a bit circumspect, very objective, devoid of any other prejudice or any other ulterior motive, and do things in a very normal way, very cordial way, and the state is giving precedence over any other, you know, partisan issue.
But one will also argue that even going for normal interview, corporate interview, sometimes you are subjected to these kind of combative,
but it has a limit.
How you can handle yourself.
Listen, Gifty, I'm not trying to defend the lady or the woman.
No, I'm
I agree to what they're saying. I just to test your temperament.
Because the other women went through it. Cecilia Dapa went through it. Amele Tego went through it. Honorable Alima.
So can you say the same question was asked?
No, but it was the same.
Or the same interaction was conducted? No.
Even some of the men were taken through West. I don't want us to see this as because she was a woman.
No, fine. But
you
what I'm trying
I don't want us to see it that way.
The element I want us to take out of it is that we are blaming her that she's arrogant. But I'm saying that it takes two to tango. How was she interviewed? What was the conduct of the interviewers themselves or people vetting? Actually, I haven't followed her case. That is why I can't technically come in. But I've followed a few issues at the parliament where you realize that those that are vetting others, the kind of statements they issue, the way they even conduct themselves, one sitting back, realize that, no, these people have ulterior motive, trying to push you so that they can say something to, you know, let Ghanaians think, oh, this section of political whatever, they are arrogant, they are this, they don't respect others. It's happened to the chief of staff a number of times. Sometimes the kind of questions they ask, they themselves, under the carpet, portray some sort of arrogance. But if you reply, then they quickly come back. You are this. And then he also said the number of ministers are too many, and that when we were talking about positive change, I think the president himself came out clearly. And that's a sign of a good leader, a leadership style that can realize that, oh, I made a mistake, and that I'm sorry, state. And any good leader always have to sit back, review what he is doing, and make adjustments for you to ensure sustenance and competitive edge, even within normal companies, within normal setups in every country. So there's nothing wrong with the president sitting back, realizing that cumbersome nature of the work calls for more ministers, and that he made a statement prior to that. He came, but no, I have to be honest with my people. I have to tell Ghanaians. I said about looking at the job, looking at how laborious it is, I think I need more hands to help. We should have rather even say he's done a good job by not being so arrogant to say that, oh, this and that. He came back to apologize.
But those who are criticizing also thinking about the national purse in a country where we keep saying we don't have money.
Do you also talk about the marginal benefit in terms of those whose hands are being called into? So we should look at the marginal benefit and marginal loss and see whether these people truly are going to add a value to what is happening in Ghana or not before we can criticize issues. You were saying that we have few months to go. Why the need? I think MPP, even if it goes and another party comes, the work is still there. We still need more hands. It's not going to terminate at the end of 2008. There should be continuity. I traveled to the voter regions a few days back. And Gifty, I'm telling you, I have some pictures on my photograph. I wept at a point. We are still back, in spite of all the good things previous governments, this present government is doing. Gifty, a lot to be done in Ghana. So we don't have to be thinking of when one's leadership is coming to an end. We should be thinking of where Ghana is being taken to. So to me, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You
should go to my village in the Savlugu-Nanton district called Sokotampia. You know
Tampia,
that.
Okay.
I have decided to go to almost every place in Ghana. And see what's
but Honorable, before you, let me ask, what is the vetting committee actually expecting from this woman again? She says she's provided a proof of is a paper submitted to renounce her British citizenship. She's provided a copy of the receipt for the check, the fact proving that the money has been withdrawn from her account. She has a Ghanaian passport, and you are a lawyer. What is this bit about? The fact that you have a Ghanaian passport doesn't mean you're a Ghanaian.
Oh, if we were to rely on that, a few days ago, the Chief of Staff himself was on the floor of Parliament, and you can read the Hansard. He said that the Ghanaian passport is not recognized. I'm quoting him. In fact, Honorable Yilechire had to pick him on a point of order to ask him whether the president traveled on Chinese passport, but that was just a side issue. I think that she must make every material information requested by the committee available to the committee. Acquired. The committee, on the basis of that, will submit a report to Parliament. Let me give you an interesting... Yesterday, she is not the only person who appeared before the vetting committee. How come that Honorable Chairman Sir Bonsu was at ease with himself and with the committee?
Because he's used to it. That's one of his own, in the middle of his own colleagues.
No, absolutely. It means that he has the capacity, he has demonstrated that he is capable to the higher office that he's being called to. And he's proving his word. So it is not for you to come and run arrogance and say that people have intimidated you with questions. Humility is very difficult to attain as a person. I think that on the basis of what we are reading, I didn't have the privilege to monitor or be part of the sitting.
Right.
If she has given all the information that the committee needed, I hear there was a question about voter registration. Right. Let's see whether it is established or not. Right. On that basis, Parliament in its wisdom will take a decision on the matter.
And Gifty, to add something, I think I just had a chance to listen to an extract of whatever happened. I was on the car, so I couldn't listen to all. And Honorable Barbin said something, which, if it is true, I think, yes, what is happening is not like they are trying to prevent the lady from being given the... Because she said that it's not only the dual citizenship. Once they announce that you qualify, there's a process that you should go through. And that if the lady has gone through all the processes, of course, nobody will prevent her. But if she has not...
But it looks like Honorable Bagbin was actually taking her through, that there is a process to go through. But it all comes back to what Honorable Haruna said earlier. Didn't they check all these things before they put her up to this? Obviously, she's been out of this country, and you can't blame her for that in some aspect. But those who put her up to, didn't they advise her?
Yeah, I agree with Honorable. But then, we are human beings. We make mistakes sometimes. It could be that there was an omission. So sometimes we don't have to behave like the system that we are practicing as Ghanaians is so perfect. We are still trying to rationalize the system. And even somewhere they have better technologies. I mean, these things are bound to happen. Some of them, they are very ridiculous. You think, why should this happen in UK? Why should this happen in America? So we shouldn't behave like Ghana is a paradise where everybody should be perfect up to task, whatever he's doing. So, Sandra, we should give margins
Right.
I think that will help us.
Well, one more lady won't do any harm, Honorable. So perhaps you should just allow her to go through.
And it was good she apologized. I think
yeah, she apologized.
Yeah,
it was, you know, I mean, we all learn. As you said, we are all human, right? So CJA, are you a member?
Yes,
I hear you've not settled.
On 11th December. I haven't gotten the actual brief yet.
Okay.
But there is a scheduled demonstration for 11th December that Ghanaians who are feeling the hardships and
this
deceit
is not
of
a
the
platform
ruling
for you to advertise your CJ. I just asked if everything
you brought
is okay. Right. That's all. Thank you very much.
But if they are issued the CJA issues, the state has to spend resources and stuff like that. Is it credible?
The state spend resources managing Kumeprekus. What are you talking
Fortunately
about?
for me, I asked the questions, you see, so I don't have to answer that.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I want to know what you
answer. He didn't live in Ghana between 1997 and 2000.
He doesn't know about the Kumeprekus.
He might have been Vicky Brighton somewhere too.
But you can't compare those days.
That's all we have for you this morning. We still have time out coming up. Keep watching. This is the Breakfast Show, the Friday edition. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The show continues.
You're welcome.
Wins of Slacker International glide you across the motherland.
And welcome back to the new breakfast show for today, Thursday. We are going to have the newspaper review, and as usual, we have the Daily Graphic and some of the other private newspapers. Obviously, the running story for the week has been the NDC the running mate saga within the National Democratic Congress. Now, the graphic says, is John and John ticket Buhaha? Is John Mahama at last? Obviously, you can understand why graphic says that. The Times says, John tops them all. And we'll have some of the private papers. I'll just talk about what they say and then we'll have a discussion. Now, the Crusading Guard says, is John and John for NDC? The Chronicle says, it's all over. John Mahama finally confirmed, but questions lack over his background. Now, the Daily Guide also says, Mills picks John. JJ fires Victor Smith over what? Obscene loyalty. And then the Independent says, Rawlings angry, finally sacks his aide, but Victor says, I have been treated unfairly. Now, this and a lot more, but for today, we're going to have to look at, first of all, the story of running mate for the NDC. And luckily today, I don't have ladies, I have gentlemen. I have Steve Amwa, who is a business and development analyst. And I also have Kofi Adams, who is the Deputy National Youth Organizer for the NDC. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Kofi, yeah. I think I will start with you because you are more of, I mean, what we are going to discuss falls more into your area. We're talking about John Mahama at last. Yesterday, we all heard the news. Some radio stations called it breaking news, but some of us heard it later. Those who heard it right after the meeting also heard it. John Mahama at last, upon everything that has been said, and that's why the graphic said John and John ticket Buhaha. Is John Mahama at last? If you have, I think you've read the graphic. What's your take on that?
Thank you very much, Fred. I think I've indicated earlier in my comments, even before yesterday, that what has been going on in the party, if it doesn't happen, then the persons within NDC would have surprised me, and in any case would have gone beyond any acceptable norm that goes through any political party that is supposed to be having strong democratic credentials. Lobbying normally occurs when there is opportunity for a vacancy to be filled, especially if it is not going to be through elections where people will have to go around campaigning. Personalities who may be making decisions will have to be lobbied. So all that has gone on, I think, was good for the party. Finally, the flag bearer, in consultation with the National Executive, as indicated, has settled on John Dramani Mahama, MP for Bole Bamboy.
Yeah.
And
a very fine gentleman.
Yeah, a very fine gentleman who is more qualified to even be president of this country. And I think there were a lot of calls on him when the NDC was going for its Congress in 2006 to put up his name for the flag bearership of the party. And finally, I think the number 2 slot has settled this on him. I do also agree with you that, yes, Graphic put out a story there which caused all kinds of this and stares, and indeed the graphic story of 1st April was inaccurate, because what was stated in the story as things that have occurred indeed have not occurred. So it was right for persons who reacted strongly to the graphic story to have done this and what they did. Now graphic can now go ahead and authoritatively confirm this.
What are some of the things that were said in the graphic that were not? Is it linked to the is it the independent or the the independent story which talks about the former president being angry with his aide and therefore sacked him? And I mean, the two of us, we were discussing the story outside. Is it linked to it in terms of what the graphic said earlier on 1st April and then what is happening now?
Yeah, I was talking about what they said in their publication of 1st April, Tuesday, which indicated that certain consultative processes had taken place over the weekend and which concluded with a meeting with the founder of the party, which indeed was not true. And I think subsequently they went and interviewed Professor Mills, who himself indicated that the consultative process is still ongoing, and what has been indicated in the story that it has taken place over the weekend did not happen. He was not at the residence of the former president on that particular day that graphic is talking about, and we thought that the right apology at that time could have been rendered and not to still stand firmly on your story, because even the source of the story indicated that he was misquoted in one way or the other.
Now, let me just come in with it. Do you look? Let's look at the Honorable John Mahama's ticket as the running mate. Yeah. I mean, let me ask, like any ordinary Ghanaian would ask, do you think it adds a lot to the ticket of Professor John Evans Atta Mills?
A political party will be shooting itself in the foot if it goes for a running mate that adds nothing to the ticket. So ultimately, the running mate that you pick should be able to bring something on board. Yeah. It could be numbers in terms of votes. It could be even resource mobilization that will help you reach out to persons that otherwise you cannot reach because of a lack of resources. Yeah. So at least a John Mahama addition to Professor Mills is going to bring something on board the NDC. But like the story you were trying to link it up to earlier, I do not see any relationship between this as the independent attempted to do that. There is no relationship between the firing of Emmanuel Victor Smith, who has been the aide of former President Rawlings, to the naming of John Dramani Mahama yesterday.
Thank you very much, Kofi. Now, Steve, John Mahama, Honorable John Mahama has been picked, and he tops them all, as it is said by the Ghanaian Times. He's been picked as the holy one to follow the prof. I mean, we've discussed, Kofi and myself, in the discussion we've gone on to talk about the firing of Victor Smith in terms of that, and then we're asking whether it will add to it, and I think he's. So what's your take on that, Steve?
I'm sure here we should look at three things which I most of the time talk about when you're trying to analyze the strength of a political party, especially the leading opposition party in a country like Ghana. You're talking of still the three major factors. The party itself, its competitive position, the perception of the people out there, and then, of course, the competitive position of the other parties. But here we need to concentrate on the competitive position of NDC, where one has to consider its resources. The resources in terms of financial resources, in terms of human resources. And then, of course, you also have to talk about the approach and stuff like that. But our concentration still is limited to the human resources, where we are considering...
I think, Steve, hold on. Let me just... let's first of all look at the John Mahama ticket.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. That's what we say.
I mean, he's been chosen at last.
That's why I'm limiting it to him. So you let me. What I'm trying to say that you limit the human resources. That's where John Mahama comes in. Yeah. Then one has to ask whether his presence is going to add any voting synergies or not. And one thing you have to look at is that the perception of Ghanaians still holds that yes, John Mahama might be a very fine gentleman. But where he is coming from, the party in which he is, probably people have a lot of question marks, whether they are correct or wrong. they still think that the influence of the Rawlinses on the NDC might not let even Prof himself exhibit the true competence that he has. Because you're talking of key resource, you're talking of core competencies. I think he's a key resource in Ghanaian politics. I think he's got a core competence, yes, of course. But even performance is a function of ability, which he's got, opportunity and motivation. The major factor is opportunity, whether he's going to be given that opportunity to operate, that freedom to operate. That is what a lot of, by the Rawlinses. But
I think that if you look at the what has been going on over the week, I mean, in terms of looking at the outburst of the former First Lady on radio with all those things, and the Prof still stands by the fact that, well, this is what I want. I think that you can't...
You know, even this one, Ghanaians have 3 separate stands. There is a group or a class of people that are saying that, look, this is to test whether Prof is a man of his own. There's the other one that says that it's a diversionary tactics. The other one still says that Rawlings supports John and the wife supports the other woman. So all these speculations are going wrong.
These are speculations. Now let's move on to a substantive issue.
Yeah,
John Mahama is here. I mean, when
that is what I'm saying, that he might be a very fine gentleman, but of course he cannot operate on its own, because there are other factors that need to be considered. That is whether he's going to have the opportunity to exhibit the competence, the expertise that Ghanaians perceive him to have. It's a question. Do you understand what I'm saying? In any case, it could add or subtract if other influential factors are going to allow him to operate as a man of his own. Do you get my point? So, I mean, it's good for NDC to choose him. I know he's a fine gentleman. Nobody can actually debate that fact. But at the end of the day, it goes beyond that. And besides, he's a vice president. He's not a substantive leader. He can only act when the substantive leader is not there. All these factors will be considered by Ghanaians. So it's a good news for the NDC, but then it goes beyond that. And of course, every party has its own ideologies, its own internal policies within which it operates, or people that are fine leadership positions operate. And these are all guiding principles that will not let you do the thing you think you yourself can do exclusively. You need to go within the confinements of the internal policies. You need to go within the confinements of the National Executive Committee and stuff like that. All these things are factors that, to me, going to cripple even John Mahama himself to operate as a vice president. So it's not going to be any news that is really going to help the NDC, based on the fact that the party in which he is chosen, probably there are other factors that will influence your performance. That's what I'm trying to say.
Kofi,
yeah, Fred,
I think you would want to quick, the way you've been looking at it.
And you know, we've had this problem of people talking about one being his own man, one being independent-minded. A political party is a collection of persons of different thinkings, but who have agreed to a particular ideology and philosophy that they think they have come together to pursue.
Yeah.
So by belonging to a political party, the fact of you having your own independent decision at least reduces to a certain extent, because it is ideas that you have put together that you all agreed on to pursue. So this matter of one being his own self or not being his own self, then you better go independent. If you are an independent candidate, then you can be talking about what? Doing things the way you want them done. But once you belong to a political party, the political party has ideology, the political party has a philosophy, the political party has a way it wants to package itself. And all its staffers, all its executives, all its members must work within the constitutional provision of that party. You cannot do anything outside of that.
Okay,
so
right.
that must be hammered this at home. And and another point that I want another point that I want to raise is that, look, John Mahama has been selected. It is up to him. They selected him because he has some qualities that they think he's going to bring on board, and that is what he must bring on board. The NDC as a party must not pretend as leadership that all is completely what? Well, we must move quickly to see whether there are areas of backlashes that we need to what? Identify and solve, because anytime there is opportunity to select, some persons will surely be hurt, and we cannot say that though, because majority are okay, we leave it at that. We need to move on and find a way of reaching out to all other persons and move everybody on board. That is very important.
Okay, all right. I think quickly, my brother is sort of buttressing my point that I said. Yes, as an individual, you cannot operate on your own, because every party has its values, culture, its beliefs, and I think that is what Ghanaians are actually going to look at. What values, what are the cultures, what are the beliefs of a particular party? Is it a party that Ghanaians need? So the individual might play a role, but very insignificant, depending on the type of political party and its ideologies, the way they go about doing their own things. I think Ghanaians are witness to these things. So the individual involvement might play a role, but very irremarkable.
All right, Steve. Thank you very much, Steve and Kofi. Now, if you move to the page 3 of the Ghanaian Times, it says public cautioned against passport contractors. This issue, I don't know when we can deal with this issue as a nation. Passport contractors, Kofi.
Yeah, I think, like you said, this thing have come up again and again. It is found in the issuance of licenses to drivers, and I believe that they gradually are coming up with a system that tend to reduce the intervention of what they would describe as the Goro boys in the area of issuance of passports, because of the system that has been put in place that you have to be there in person. They will take your photograph, capture your details.
That's the driving license.
That's the driving license. So I think that the passport department of the immigration that issues passport must find a way of also adapting systems that will reduce the performance of these Goro boys. But if the system stays the same as it is, you will talk about it, but they will still be around. You just go to the passport office now, and by 6 o'clock, you see a lot of persons around there, as if it's a camp that is aggregating persons who have either been affected by one weather situation or the other. But meanwhile, these are persons there who are supposed to do business on behalf of so many persons. You see one person carrying more than 100 passport forms. They talk about it at the regions, they talk about it at the district, they come on air and say all kinds of things, but still they deal with these persons. And sometimes some person's information, personal data that is supposed to be known by you and protected, is made available to these boys that they describe as Goro boys or women, because they are not only boys. Sometimes you see women also there, also engage in it. They make this available to them, they capture your data, and if care is not taken, it's used sometimes in even reproducing other fake passports for persons who engage in all kinds of things. So even for your own safety, it is better to fill your own forms, deliver it, and make sure that you get it done, to give such detailed information of you to some persons to go and capture, and it could be used for something else. Sometimes they are charged very high and ridiculous charges, more than maybe 100% more of what is officially in charge. And some of these passports are even not made available. Some of them that are made available may even be faked. So it's very important that people will take caution that is given about, not only about passports, but even birth certificates and what have you. I would not understand why persons, maybe it is the processes that have become so much that some people do not have time to be able to do it. So they find solace in dealing with these Goro boys, or is it ignorance that they do not know the processes that they should go through, or the processes are cumbersome? We must check and see whether we can reduce the cumbersome nature of the processes or educate Ghanaians as to how it is easy to acquire a passport. Once we do that, I think we can move forward.
I'm sure we've been paying lip services.
Let me first come in. Do you think that it is as a result of these, the existence of these Guru boys and girls, as Kofi will say, that has necessitated sometimes you see a lot of foreigners holding Ghanaian passports?
Yeah, it plays a role, but let's look at the core issue. We've been paying lip services for too long. I don't think we can only limit it to a specific case of Goro boys, whatever. But then I see it as syndicate antisocial behaviors, that even some people at the top are involved, because directly or indirectly they know they are involved. This thing has been going on. We're all kids when these Goro boys' activities and practices were prevailing at places like what we are talking about now. And it's been ages. We always talk about it. Proliferation of foreigners using our passports and other documents to travel, and even when they travel, they engage themselves in all kinds of antisocial behaviors, and Ghana is tagged with somebody's evil or another national evil. And these heads, whatever that they are talking about, don't they know the Goro boys? Is it not the same premises they are operating? I think we should call spade a spade. Me, I would say they are all involved. They are directly or indirectly involved, because they know, they've seen it. And it's been long. Every day we pay lip services. And I think it's also because they don't have properly set up control systems that are being adhered to, or if they have, they are not really adhering to it. The premises, what are they doing there? They could set up a whole lot of other, you know, machinery, and they'll be just arresting these guys. They know them. I mean, they can't say they're driving from their houses to their offices. They don't see these guys around. If you see one guy around the premises and you know the person is not a staff there, you see him today, the next day, months, years, he's still operating, and you come out to say that they have to stop. Who is to stop them? So I'm sure it's good that they are trying to bring to the public domain, but we've heard this over and over and over and over. It is time we did something about it. It is time those that are involved are brought to book. Otherwise, if they can't hear the place, we should change them.
Do you think, Kofi, briefly though, we are just very limited there. Do you think that if the passport office should adopt the system whereby you are supposed, like the licenses office, DVLA office has done, in terms of you go personally, they take the picture and then you move on. Do you think it's going to be of any significance or of any help?
I should think that the acquisition of passports should not be so cumbersome. That is my belief. I don't know whether making them to be there, appear there in person to take pictures, they'll have the capacity now to do it. But I think it's something we can look at in future. That it should be possible for us to have the capacity, even at the regional levels, for persons not necessarily to come to Accra. So at the regional level, you just get your regional office, have your picture taken, and then you have your passport prepared for you. Because once that is done, it will reduce the intervention of the Guru boys drastically. Because some of them have become an authority of itself at the passport office, that they walked in and walked out. And if you are there to transact business on your own, you don't even get access to go.
Now, Steve, what do you think should be done? I mean,
the attitude of all those involved should be well managed.
Who do you think are involved?
The staff, the head, the Guru boys themselves, and then those that are subscribing for the passport. We, the people, are also involved. We give them the chance. We know the normal routine, the procedure, the activity path that we need to take to ensure that we can apply a passport. But shortcut, we pay money to them. So we are all found guilty of what is happening. And we need to change our attitude as a state and ensure that these systems are rationalized to benefit us.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve and Kofi. Now, viewers, this brings us to the end of today's newspaper review. Now, let me say a very big happy birthday to Madam Felicia Banini. Today is your birthday. It's from your daughter, Shelley Banini of GTV. Again, I want to say a good morning to Professor Gajeko and my very good friend, Justice Jokoto. Thank you. Ekuba will be back with an interview segment.
Okay, welcome back. This is the Breakfast Show Friday edition, and my executive director, Auntie Vero, that's Veronica Tete Ashon, would like to say good morning to Dr. Margaret Kwachi, the dentist at La General Hospital, Eva Soa, Selina Akon, and Hannah, all of La General Hospital. Dr. Margaret Kwachi, please make sure that I hear she's coming to see you for some tooth to be removed. Make sure you move everything so that she won't talk too much. And good morning, Auntie Vero. We love you, you know that. Okay. Now, okay, back to serious business. And we are talking about the papers this morning. I have with me a woman I haven't seen for quite a while. She's deserted me, but today I think she had mercy on me and decided to come. Good morning to you, Auntie Frances.
Good morning, Gifty.
And welcome back from your tour. We'll talk a little bit about that. She's a woman of many colors. She's the one of the vice chairpersons of the DFP. She's a businesswoman of international repute. She has her own NGO and so on and so forth.
Yeah, tribute.
Of course, I'm honoring her and she deserves it.
I'm not yet dead.
An award.
And this one is Steve Amwa. Steve Amwa.
Ordinary man.
Ordinary man of the NPP. Okay. Now, but back to Obertman. The Ghanaian Observer front page says Obertman on regional tour. I believe you were part of it.
Yes, I was.
How was it?
Well, it was an assessment tour, and I'll say it was fantastic. We went through Yeji, Atsebobo, Prime, you know, Techimai, right up to Esotifi, Esonafo North. And
so
those
the Brunhafo region specifically.
Yeah, Brunhafo, Sunyani, and so on. And I think the only part we didn't touch was Sene, and probably just the last part of that front place. But of course, we'll be going back to the substantive tour. This was actually to let the executives have a feel of what was really going on the ground, how the structures had been consolidated, how we're being battle ready for the big job ahead in December 2008. And it was very good. And I was impressed by the enthusiasm of the youth, because seriously, that's where the swing actually lies. And one significant thing during the tour was the chiefs, opinion leaders, whether it was the Muslims, with the mosques, religious leaders, or the traditional rulers or traditional houses. One thing that came out clearly was that they really wanted peace in this country. And they were actually complaining, I think I've made it clear on some other medium during the week, they were complaining that even at the level, at the local level, the rural levels, you have some particular political party which always spews out threats and so on and so forth. And they wouldn't like us to go that way. So I'm sure yesterday in your reportage, some of it even came out clearly. Yeah. So what we gathered was that people are ready to secure the peace in this country and will not entertain, really, any party that comes out to disturb the peace or gives any indication of potential violence or threats to the people. So I'm sure who the cap fits would actually wear it and change for the better.
Inform your
yes,
kind of campaign?
Yeah, it will inform our campaign to a large extent, because if we go in a certain way that threatens the psyche of the people in terms of the relativities, in terms of peace, you would realize that you are not going to get what you want out there. And for me, significantly, with the parliamentary, I was surprised at some exuberant, youthful, dynamic, young men who are standing on our tickets, men of substance. When I talk, they have the necessary qualification, and surprisingly, they're wherewithal. We're an up-and-coming party, and resources will always be an issue.
Challenge, right.
Yeah, and you could read, I won't mention those constituencies because strategically it would be wrong for opponents, whether the incumbent or the largest opposition or other opposition parties, to go shopping where we are shopping. But significantly, you'd realize that they had done so much work on the ground. And for the parliamentary, I'd want to assure Ghanaians that the DFP already has its feet in parliament.
So aside the peace messages that you were, you received and the assurances here and there, you think you are in for an impact, to make an impact?
As for the impact,
you think DFP will make an impact?
Will definitely make an impact. And that's what I'm telling you, that our feet, we've got our feet firmly planted in the House of Parliament. And we also took out the message of the Green Revolution. And if we watch what is happening, I think the Millennium, what do you call it? Is it the Challenge Corporation?
The corporation,
has actually signed an agreement or a deal
with Kofi Annan's outfit.
And fortunately, Ghana is one of the countries to benefit.
They're going to start with Ghana, Madagascar,
of course,
and Mali.
You don't point your left hand at your father's village.
Definitely.
So
that's why we love our Kofi Annan. But Steve, the DFP, do you think we should take them serious?
Why not? I think the way Frances
But by the way, all the political parties, why are you taking Uncle Dan's Green Revolution? He started it long ago. Why do you people want to take it? That's by way of... Yeah, but it's all part of it, Uncle Dan's...
I'm sure the way Frances just spoke, I've always said it here that any serious group with serious objective or goal, you can't just wake up one day and say you're strategizing. The process is clear. First, you need to scan the environment by assessing issues on the ground. By doing that, you know which alternative is best to use to get there. And exactly that's what they are doing. But then, it's giving a signal. It's telling the bigger political parties to be on guard, because one of the factors that has to be considered is the competitive position of the one you're competing with. And if they have been able to embark on such strategic and tactical drive, then it's a sign that, look, you should stand firm because we are coming, we are serious, we want to make an impact. I'm glad she hasn't said they want to win, just like the other minor parties, because it is an incremental process to build a political party.
What kind of impact do you think?
I'm sure they will win most of the parliamentary seats if NDC and PP they don't stand well, but you know the presidential will take some time. It
will take some time before they get there.
DFP is still in its embryonic stage. Let us, unless we don't want us to accept that reality. Okay. So I know they will do well. Looking at the caliber of people that
when Barack Obama started, everybody
DFP.
said he will make an impact.
That was quite a serious, different issue. They are not having any common size effect. But what I'm trying to say is that looking at the leadership of DFP, personally, I'm not their member, but I have confidence in them. I mean, they've got the requisite expertise.
So you vote for them parliamentary?
No, please. I'll vote for MPP parliamentary.
We're just checking.
What I'm trying to say is that one thing that other parties, especially the bigger ones, MPP and DC, I find them not doing much is really assessing the competitive position of the other competitors. That is the way they organize, the kind of people they are dealing with, the way they behave socially. You know, she was talking about threats and other things. Sometimes your old woman in the village will call you, or your auntie somewhere will call you. What's happening in Ghana? Somebody call even from abroad. I mean, abroad. That what's happening? We learned December is going to be fire. I'm saying, look, God is taking care of all of us, and I'm sure December will come and December will go.
And hopefully that doesn't mean we are taking things for granted.
No, I'm not talking about that. Yesterday, if
you watch the news, I think Vladimir Iddrisu was talking about the fact that nobody ever thought that Kenya will relapse into what it is now. Nobody ever thought that Cote d'Ivoire will get to where it is now.
Francis, I'm not ruling any possible. Sorry, I'm not ruling any possible violence out December. But what I'm trying to say is that the kind of belief Ghanaians have in God, the kind of trust, and the kind of dependency in terms of relationship that we have with God.
Kenyans didn't believe in God?
It depends. I believe strongly that God will protect us.
Amen.
Anybody with any conspiracy will go away with his own or her own conspiracy. Ghana is purely for God.
Amen. And hopefully government will also put its structures in order to make sure that
not only government, all the stakeholders, opposition, government, media men, we all have to modify our behavior to ensure that peace prevails.
Was that the message that the people, the feedback we got?
Right. Okay, so the message is clear. People don't want any violent, violent elections come December. We all want peace because we don't want to go down the way other countries have gone. Back to an issue that I don't think will ever go away until the December elections. The Statesman front page, Akufo-Addo breaks silence on national awards. And I would like to read the third paragraph. It has a picture with Komla Adumo of BBC, and it says, talking about Nana Akufo-Addo, he assured them that he had no problem with that, and in fact welcomed signals from government that there is a determination to deepen Ghana's democratic culture. That's talking about the award for the national, is it the highest award
awards,
for Professor Evans Atta Mills of the NDC?
Award?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in that category, the highest of the land. Okay. Yes, madam. Well, let me start with you. But before then, the searchlight is also on it. It said on Atta Mills award, Akufo-Addo not bothered.
Well, Gift, I think I keep on saying that Nana Akufo-Addo, well, he's a parliamentarian, so let me call him Honorable Nana Akufo-Addo, has actually, you know, he's been carving the image of a unifier. He's been carving the image of a leader. When you talk, people say you are the spokesperson. There's so many people seeking the leadership mantle of this country. And when they do it right, we'll say it for everybody to know. We'll give our opinion, free and fair, without bias, right? And if he was to say anything negative or to the contrary, definitely we'll comment as the issues are excuse me, brought up.
Right.
And I believe that for somebody seeking leadership, this is so apt, and it's an ace, you know, in his what do you call it, in his cap. I mean, you know, this gives more credence to the fact that the sort of perceptions cast about him earlier on actually do not hold true.
Come back to the issue. One would say that it's his own party faithfuls who are worried, who are complaining, some even using words that you wouldn't expect coming from them.
We sat here about 2 weeks ago and discussed this issue about Thursday 2 weeks ago. The issue at stake is this. People have the right to their own democratic opinions. You can hold it against them. But I had said that propaganda-wise wasn't even necessary. But you can't fault them. They have a right to voice out what they feel. We're in a free and fair country. Nobody will lash your back in the MPP for coming out this way. You know, their own national organizer, women organizer. They've made up because they are part of the ruling government and they are looking at it from a certain parochial or partisan point of view, you know, because this is being given to someone who is leading the opposition into that of Professor
student
Mills.
Of politics, I will say. Is it really strategic?
I think tactically strategic, because for instance,
to award your political opponent.
My point is that I think under the former administration, other people had been awarded who were not really.
But they were not flag bearers.
No, it doesn't.
An election year.
It depends on when the awards were given. And my point is that be it a